In the silence of forgotten temples and beneath the dust of ancient ruins, there lies a secret so profound, so powerful, it is echoed through thousands of years, whispered by mystics, guarded by sages, and hunted by empires. This secret is carved into a single slab of green crystal, a relic known as the Emerald Tablet. Small in size, but infinite in meaning, this tablet is said to contain the very code of reality, a divine message from the gods, hidden in plain sight. But where did it come from? The Emerald Tablet is said to have been written by a mysterious figure known as Hermes Trismegistus. His name means Hermes the Thrice Great, and he is no ordinary man. He is a fusion of the Greek god Hermes, messenger of the gods, and the Egyptian deity Thoth, god of wisdom, writing, and magic. Some believe Hermes Trismegistus was a real person, a sage who lived in ancient Egypt long before the time of the pharaohs. Others say he was an avatar, a divine being sent to awaken humanity. In truth, no one can say for certain, and that mystery is part of the power. What we do know is this: the Emerald Tablet holds a teaching so radical that entire spiritual systems have been built upon it. It's the root of alchemy, both physical and spiritual. Not just turning lead into gold, but transforming the human soul into something eternal, luminous, and free. For centuries, this tablet was hidden. It traveled to the shadows of history, surfacing in ancient Egypt, reappearing in medieval Arabia, and later in Renaissance Europe. The Arab scholars called it the Smaragdin Tablet and translated it with deep reverence. They knew it contained something divine. The alchemists of Europe, including Isaac Newton, who privately translated the text himself, believed it was the key to all understanding. But why would such a treasure be buried, obscured, and erased from public view? Because power fears freedom. The Emerald Tablet teaches that reality itself is a mirror, that what is above is like what is below, that the soul and the cosmos are reflections of each other, that hidden within each of us is the same force that moves the stars. These are not teachings that rulers or religious institutions wanted widely known. They empower the individual. They bypass priests and kings. They awaken something ancient and unstoppable within the human heart. Throughout history, those in control, be they emperors, popes, or institutions, have understood this. And so, the tablet was labeled as myth, occult, forbidden. It was buried under layers of symbolism and secrecy. Yet, it never disappeared. It was hidden not to be lost, but to protect it from corruption, to keep it until the time was right. And maybe that time is now. In just a few lines of text, barely more than a paragraph, the Emerald Tablet contains an entire cosmology. It reveals a vision of the universe as alive, intelligent, and interconnected. It tells of a single source, a divine essence that flows through all things. It speaks of the sun and moon, of earth and fire, of the spiritual and material, as parts of one great whole. This was not a theory. To those who studied it, this was truth. The tablet has no known origin date. Some claim it was found in the hands of Hermes Trismegistus' lifeless body in a secret chamber beneath a pyramid. Others say Alexander the Great discovered it in a hidden vault in Egypt, and others insist it is much older than any empire, given to humanity by celestial beings at the dawn of time. Regardless of where or how it came to us, its message has never faded. And it begins like this: true, without falsehood, certain and most true. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. These words have echoed across continents, translated into countless languages, and yet their essence remains untouched. They have inspired alchemists, mystics, philosophers, and scientists alike. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, saw in the tablet a map of the psyche. Others saw the mechanics of the cosmos. But one truth stands above all others. The Emerald Tablet is not just something you read. It's something you live. Its words are keys to a door within your own soul, a door that, once opened, cannot be closed. So why has no one taught us this in school? Why is this sacred tablet, older than most religions, completely unknown to most of the world? Because its knowledge is dangerous. Dangerous to ignorance, dangerous to hierarchy, dangerous to those who benefit from a world asleep. The Emerald Tablet tells us that we are not separate from creation, that we are divine beings, not sinners begging for forgiveness, That reality responds to our inner state. That heaven is not above us, but within us. These truths, once fully understood, would overturn everything. They would awaken the sleeping giant of the human spirit. And maybe that's exactly what they were meant to do. In the episodes to come, we will journey deeper into the lines of the tablet. We'll explore the true meaning behind as above, so below, uncover the stages of the soul's alchemical transformation, and reveal the tablet's ties to ancient Egypt and hidden knowledge. We'll ask the hard questions. Why was it forbidden? Who is hiding it? And what happens when we finally remember? The Emerald Tablet is not just a relic. It's a mirror, and what you see in it is the beginning of something far greater than you've ever imagined. As above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the soul. These simple words are perhaps the most powerful ever written. They come from the heart of the Emerald Tablet, whisper across millennia like a sacred flame passed from hand to hand. In just a few lines, they express a cosmic law, a truth so absolute it changes everything. But what do they really mean? At first glance, as above, so below, sound poetic, almost mysterious. But its meaning is precise. It tells us that the structure of reality is mirrored, that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm, that what happens in the stars happens in the cells, that the same laws that govern the universe also shape the soul. It is a teaching about oneness, about interconnectedness, about the holographic nature of existence. Let's begin with the above. This is the world of the spiritual, the divine, the cosmic forces that lie beyond our senses. The realm of stars, of light, of infinite energy. The below is our physical world, earth, flesh, time, and matter. The tablet says these two are not separate. They are reflections of one another. They move together. What happens in one realm echoes in the other. This idea is found in ancient traditions across the world. In India, the Upanishads teach that the Atman, the inner soul, is identical to Brahman, the ultimate reality. In Christianity, we hear on earth as it is in heaven. In indigenous cultures, we find the sacred web of life connecting all things. And in modern science, quantum physics is beginning to uncover a strange truth, that the observer and the observed are deeply linked, that the act of attention itself shapes reality. So when the Emerald Tablet says, as above, so below, it's not offering a metaphor. It's revealing a law of creation. And this is where it becomes personal. If the world around you reflects the world within you, then your thoughts, emotions, and intentions are not small. They're the seed of your entire experience. If you hold fear, you will meet it in the world. If you nurture love, you will find it in return. Reality is not just happening to you. You are co-creating it moment by moment. As within, so without. This is the great secret of manifestation. What you focus on expands. What you believe shapes your path. If you carry unresolved wounds within you, they will mirror into your relationships, your health, your decisions. And if you begin to heal, the world itself begins to shift in your favor. This is not magic, it is law. The Emerald Tablet speaks of a unified field. Not just energy, but conscious energy, alive, responsive, aware. You are not separate from the divine. You are a channel of it. Your soul is not trapped here on earth, struggling to return to heaven. It is heaven, learning to remember itself. And here's the part they never told you. You have always had access to this. But if you were taught that your power lies outside of you, in a priest, in a book, in a savior, you might never look within. You might never realize that your breath connects you to the stars, that your heart is an altar, that your body is a temple, that your life is a spell you are casting, whether you know it or not. As the universe, so the soul. This is the final piece. It tells us that our soul is not separate from the cosmos. It is made of the same fire, the same light, the same consciousness. You are not just in the universe. You are the universe, expressing itself as a human for a brief and sacred moment. The ancient alchemists believed that by understanding this mirror, by aligning the inner and the outer, they could perform miracles. They could turn base metals into gold, not just in the laboratory, but in the soul. They could purify the self, heal the body, and awaken divine knowledge. They did not separate science from spirit or matter from meaning. For them, the Emerald Tablet was not a theory. It was a guidebook to divine mastery. So, why has this knowledge been hidden? Because it changes the game. A person who knows they are divine cannot be controlled. A person who understands as above, so below cannot be enslaved by fear. They no longer beg for salvation. They become the light they were seeking. They no longer obey blindly. They listen to the voice of truth within. They no longer consume blindly. They create with intention. This is why, for centuries, those in power labeled such teachings as heresy. Because if everyone knew they were creators, if everyone knew they had access to divine truth directly, the old systems would fall. The pyramid of control would collapse. But here's the truth. Nothing can suppress a soul that is ready to awaken. Today, this knowledge is returning. Not through priests, but through intuition. Not through dogma, but through direct experience. People are feeling the pull, the remembering, the spark. They are looking at the stars and feeling something ancient stir inside. They are hearing the words as above, so below, and realizing it's not just a saying. It's a doorway into yourself. When you meditate, you are not escaping the world. You are entering the space where the inner and outer meet. When you heal, you are healing more than your own life. You are shifting the reflection for generations. When you align with love, with clarity, with truth, the universe begins to echo that alignment back to you in countless ways. The Emerald Tablet is not locked in a museum or lost in the sands. It is alive in you right now. Its teachings wait in the stillness between your thoughts, in the quiet of your breath, in the mirror of your own becoming. As above, so below. This is not just knowledge. It is a revolution of consciousness. And you, whether you realize it or not, are a part of it. There's a path hidden in plain sight. It winds not through cities or forests, but through the chambers of a human soul. This is a path of alchemy, not merely the old dream of turning lead into gold, but something far more profound, the transformation of the self into its divine form. The Emerald Tablet does not just describe a universe. It describes a process, a sacred pattern, a journey of becoming. And at the center of this journey lies a powerful truth. You are not finished. You are a work in progress, a sacred flame wrapped in clay, capable of rising, refining, and returning to your source with light overflowing. This is a true purpose of spiritual alchemy. In ancient times, the word alchemy was cloaked in symbols, veiled in riddles. To the untrained eye, it looked like strange experiments, coded drawings, and cryptic language. But to the initiate, it was a sacred science of the soul. Alchemy was not about creating wealth. It was about creating wholeness. It was a map of inner change, using outer symbols to speak of inner realities. And it all begins with one phrase: Solve et coagula, to dissolve and to reform. This is the rhythm of transformation. First, the old must dissolve, the false identity, the wounded ego, the lies we believed about ourselves. Then, from the purified essence, something new is born. The true self, the divine spark, the eternal soul awakened. The Emerald Tablet outlines this process in its brief lines. Let's walk through the stages of this hidden path, each one a mirror of the inner alchemical fire. 1. Calcination, the burning of the false self. In this stage, the ego is burned away. Life brings you trials, loss, confusion, crisis. Everything that is not essential begins to fall apart. Old beliefs crack under pressure. The roles you played no longer fit. This is painful, but it is sacred. The fire is not your enemy. It is your initiation. Just like metals must be purified by flame, the soul must be stripped of illusion. This is the death of the mask. And only through it can truth begin to rise. 2. Dissolution, the melting of the mind. After the fire, there is water. In this stage, the old structures of the mind dissolve. The boundaries between thoughts begin to fade. You enter the realm of dreams, symbols, intuition. The subconscious awakens. You begin to feel more than you think. You sense that there's more to you, layers unseen. Here, the soul begins to speak. 3. Separation, the sorting of the true and the false. Now comes clarity. You begin to discern what is real. What beliefs are yours and what were given to you? What emotions are wounds And what are wisdom? You start to pull apart the pieces of your inner world. Like a goldsmith separating gold from dross, you begin to reclaim the light hidden within. This is not about judging. It is about seeing. 4. Conjunction, the union of opposites. The masculine and feminine. Logic and emotion. Action and stillness. In this stage, the inner polarities come into balance. The heart and mind begin to work together. The soul and body find harmony. You realize that enlightenment is not found by escaping the world, but by uniting spirit and matter. This is where healing happens. This is where love begins to grow from within. 5. Fermentation, the birth of the higher self. Now, something new begins to rise. A spark of divine consciousness. This is the moment of inner resurrection. The old self has died. The purified essence now blooms. You feel the presence of something greater, something eternal, within you. You begin to live not just from your personality, but from your soul. This is the emergence of true you. 6. Distillation, the crystallization of purity. Your vision sharpens. Your energy refines. You begin to walk with clarity, not confusion. You speak with purpose, not pretense. The distractions of the world no longer pull you like they once did. You are becoming essence, simple, clear, strong. You are not perfect, but you are aligned. 7. Coagulation, the return to wholeness. At last, the journey returns you to yourself, but transformed. You are not who you were. The divine and human are no longer separate. You are both. You carry the gold within you, not metal but awareness, not riches but radiance. This is the true philosopher's stone. It was never a rock. It was a state of being. Each of us walks this path, whether we know it or not. Every heartbreak, every challenge, every awakening is a stage of alchemy. The Emerald Tablet simply reveals the pattern. It gives shape to what we feel in the deepest parts of ourselves, that we are becoming something more. But this process must be chosen. It is not forced. The fire does not burn what is not ready. The gold does not emerge unless we are willing to do the inner work. This is why the Emerald Tablet speaks of miracles. Because when a person transforms from fear to love, from shadow to light, the entire universe responds. Reality reshapes around your new frequency. You become a beacon, a healer, a mirror for others to remember who they are. And this is not theory. History is filled with those who walked the alchemical path, though few called it by that name. Buddha under the Bodhi tree, Christ in the desert, the mystics in caves, the shamans in trance, the prophets in exile. They all walked into the fire and emerged reborn. So can you. The tablet doesn't ask you to believe. It invites you to experience, to step into the laboratory of your own soul and begin the work, not with chemicals or potions, but with presence, courage, and truth. You are not just a seeker. You are the gold waiting to be revealed. The alchemy has already begun. Long before the rise of Rome, before the great libraries of Greece, before the first word of the Bible was ever written, there was Egypt, land of temples aligned with stars, land where gods walked among men, land of sacred silence, where wisdom was not read in books, but carved into stone, sung in ritual, and guarded with reverence. Here we find the true cradle of the Emerald Tablet, not in legend but in spirit. For though the tablet's origins are shrouded in mystery, its energy echoes to the corridors of Egyptian temples, etched into the teachings of the god Thoth, the divine scribe, the architect of wisdom. Thoth was not merely a deity of writing and magic. He was the mind of the divine, the keeper time, the one who recorded the laws of creation and taught humanity how to live in harmony with the universe. In some traditions, Thoth is said to have written 36,525 books, one for every day in 1,000 years. Among them, it is whispered, was the original Emerald Tablet. Some believe Thoth became Hermes Trismegistus in the Hellenistic world, merging Egyptian and Greek knowledge into the system we now call Hermeticism. This blending was not an accident. It was a spiritual evolution, a way to preserve ancient truths through changing times. And the tablet, like a seed of light, was carried forward through this lineage. But its roots, they remain in Egypt. Look at the temples of Dendera, Edfu, Luxor, each a monument to cosmic harmony. These were not merely places of worship. They were schools of transformation, centers of initiation, where seekers were trained in sacred science, astrology, geometry, medicine, and the mysteries of the soul. Every wall, every column, every symbol was encoded with meaning. Nothing was accidental. Everything pointed to the eternal. The Emerald Tablet speaks in universal terms of the one thing, of the unity of above and below. These ideas are not separate from Egyptian teachings. They are the heart of them. The ancient Egyptians saw life as a journey of the soul through multiple realms. Birth, death, and rebirth were not linear. They were cyclical, sacred, and symbolic. The body was a vessel, the heart a scale, the soul a traveler between dimensions. This vision is beautifully captured in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which isn't a book about death at all, but a guide for the soul's awakening. And when we compare the Emerald Tablet to this ancient guide, we see striking parallels. The tablet describes a rising of the one thing from the earth by fire, echoing the Egyptian belief in spiritual ascent through purification. It speaks of separating the subtle from the gross, just as the soul, in Egyptian theology, must separate truth from illusion in the halls of judgment. And its core message of unity, the harmony of opposites, is mirrored in the Egyptian symbols of duality: sun and moon, sky and earth, Isis and Osiris. Even the Great Pyramids may be more than tombs. Their perfect geometry, celestial alignments, and hidden chambers suggest something more, a technology of the spirit. Initiates believe these structures could amplify consciousness, connect Earth with the stars, and guide the soul beyond the veil of death. Could the Emerald Tablet be a distilled formula of all this wisdom? Many believe so. Consider the temple initiations, rites of passage few speak of today. Candidates, often after years of preparation, would enter dark chambers beneath the temples. There, through symbolic death, they will confront their fears, their past lives, and their inner darkness. If they pass, they emerge reborn, no longer mere humans, but awakened souls. The phrase "die before you die" was not metaphor. It was the alchemical process of transformation. The tablet's lines reflect this path. Its force is entire if it be turned into earth. This means that the divine light must be grounded. The spiritual truths must be lived, not just known. Just as the Egyptian initiates descended into the underworld to rise again, the tablet tells us that our highest self must ascend into matter, into this life, this body, to truly manifest. This is a forgotten wisdom of Egypt, that the divine is not above us, but within us, that temples are not just stone, they are blueprints of the soul, and the tablet, encoded in green crystal, is a portable temple, a sacred geometry of words. But this knowledge was never meant for the masses, not because it is elitist, but because it is sacred. It requires reverence. The ancient Egyptians knew that power without wisdom leads to destruction. That's why their teachings were hidden in symbols, passed through oral tradition, and guarded by priesthoods who understood the gravity of such truths. Yet nothing stays hidden forever. Over time, as empires fell and languages changed, this wisdom was scattered. Pieces of it made their way to Greece, to Persia, to India. The Hermetica, texts attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, began to circulate in Alexandria. Alchemists began to rediscover the tablet, translating it into Latin, Arabic, and eventually English. But something was always missing: the context, the sacredness, the soul of Egypt behind the words. Today, as we search for meaning in a world overflowing with noise, we are beginning to remember. We are feeling the ancient pull, the call of temples lost in sand, the whisper of stars echoing through time. And in that call is the Emerald Tablet, waiting to be read not just with the eyes, but with the heart. The tablet is not a relic. It is a living portal, and Egypt is the doorway. To study the Emerald Tablet without understanding Egypt is to read a map without knowing the terrain. The tablet is the seed, and Egypt is the soil that nourished it. So when you gaze upon the pyramids, the obelisks, the silent gods with their animal heads and cosmic crowns, know that you are not looking at myth. You are looking at memory. Memory of a time when spirit and science were one, when wisdom flowed like the Nile, when the soul knew exactly where it was going. And with the tablet as our guide, we are learning to remember. The truth does not disappear. It is not destroyed by silence or buried by centuries. It sleeps quietly in hidden texts and whispered traditions. It survives in symbols carved into stone, in paintings and music, in dreams. But it survives. And in the case of the Emerald Tablet, its survival is a miracle, because for nearly 2,000 years, those who held power did everything they could to suppress this truth. The teachings of the tablet are not only profound, they are dangerous. Dangerous not because they cause harm, but because they awaken freedom. And throughout history, freedom has always threatened those who build their empires on fear. To understand why the Emerald Tablet and its wisdom were hidden, we must understand the systems that rose after the fall of ancient civilizations. When the sacred temples of Egypt were abandoned, when the Library of Alexandria burned, when Rome spread across continents, the spiritual light of antiquity dimmed, but it did not go out. The Hermetic texts were scattered, translated, and preserved in secret. In early Christian times, they were still discussed. The Church Fathers even respected them, seeing in Hermes a pagan prophet who foresaw divine truths. But everything changed when power and religion became one. As the Roman Empire evolved into the Holy Roman Church, spiritual authority became centralized. The divine was no longer found within. It was controlled by hierarchy. God became a figure on a throne, accessible only through priests, sacraments, and obedience. The inner journey, the direct experience of truth, was labeled as heresy. The Emerald Tablet, with its radical claim that you are the microcosm of the universe, posed a direct threat to this structure. And so, the persecution began. Mystics, alchemists, and visionaries were silenced. The Inquisition hunted those who studied forbidden texts. Gnostic sects who believed in direct communion with the divine were exterminated. The Cathars in France, the Sufis in Persia, the spiritual healers of medieval Europe, all faced torture and death for teaching that the divine could be known within. Still, the knowledge found ways to survive. It moved underground, into the hands of secret societies and mystical brotherhoods. The Rosicrucians, emerging in the 17th century, claimed to possess ancient Hermetic wisdom. They spoke in symbols and allegories, masking truth and metaphor to evade persecution. The Freemasons, with roots in operative stone masonry, encoded spiritual knowledge into their rites, tools, and geometry. Their temples were not churches, but symbolic schools of inner transformation. In art, architecture, and literature, this hidden stream flowed. Cathedrals were built not just as places of worship, but as stone codices, filled with sacred ratios, celestial alignments, and images that hinted at the alchemical path. Stained glass windows, labyrinths, and rose windows were all encrypted messages for those with eyes to see. During the Renaissance, the Emerald Tablet re-emerged, translated into Latin by scholars like Marsilio Ficino and Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, who saw no conflict between science, philosophy, and spirituality. They believed in a Prisca Theologia, an ancient wisdom that predated all religions and united them. For a brief time, Hermeticism flourished again. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci and thinkers like Giordano Bruno were deeply influenced by it. But again, the guardians of orthodoxy struck back. Bruno was burned at the stake in 1600 for teaching that the universe was infinite, that stars were suns with their own worlds, and that divinity resided within. Galileo, though spared execution, was silenced for suggesting a cosmos not centered around the church. And so, the true meaning of the Emerald Tablet, its promise of inner divinity and universal law, was once more driven into the shadows. In time, even the word occult, which simply means hidden, became a label for evil. But the real threat was never darkness. It was light. Light that did not ask permission. Light that could not be controlled. In the modern world, the suppression has taken a different form: distraction. Rather than burning books, the new power structure drowns us in noise. Endless media, shallow narratives, and systems of consumerism keep us from looking within. The Emerald Tablet's call to awaken is not censored, it's ignored. Yet, something is changing. More people are remembering. Ancient texts are being studied again. Quantum physics begins to echo ancient Hermetic principles. Neuroscience reveals the power of intention. Consciousness is being re-examined, not as a byproduct of the brain, but as a fundamental ground of reality. The veil is thinning, and as this light returns, so too does the fear of those who built their kingdoms on darkness. That is why the tablet is still guarded by secret symbols. That is why, even now, it appears in subtle forms, in logos and movies, in esoteric traditions whispered between spiritual seekers. The knowledge has never truly been lost. It has simply waited for those who are ready to receive it. So why was it hidden? Because it empowers the individual. Because it unites all religions under one truth. Because it reveals that creation is not outside you, it is within you. Imagine a world where each person knew this, where children were taught that their thoughts shape reality, where the divine was known not through fear, but through love, where science and spirit were not at war, but walked hand in hand. This is the world the Emerald Tablet points to. This is the world we are beginning to build. Quietly, powerfully, together, the age of secrets is ending. What was hidden is being revealed. And you, by hearing this now, are part of the unveiling. This is the moment where the journey turns inward, where all the symbols and mysteries, the ancient words of the Emerald Tablet begin to point not out to the stars, but inward, to the quiet, sacred space at the center of your being. Because the real secret, the forbidden wisdom hidden across time, is this. You are the Emerald Tablet, not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. Every word carved into that mythical green stone is encoded in the blueprint of your soul. Every mystery it reveals, every truth it whispers, is already within you, waiting to be remembered. The alchemists searched the heavens. They studied the stars, melted metals, chased elusive formulas. But the greatest among them always knew the final transformation was not out there. It was within. It was a refining of the self, the awakening of the soul, the union of the divine and human within one life. The tablet's teachings come alive when they are lived. You've heard its core messages, as above, so below, as within, so without, the one thing, the miracle of creation, the path of transformation. But now, they must become more than words. They must become a way of life. Because the world doesn't need more beliefs. It needs more awakened beings. And the path begins simply. You don't need temples, initiations, or special powers. What you need is awareness, presence, courage to turn inward, a willingness to see clearly. Step 1. Remember that you are the microcosm. Everything in the universe exists in you. The same energy that moves galaxies moves through your breath. The same balance that governs planets also governs your emotions, your health, your mind. This means that self-mastery is not just personal, it's cosmic. When you align with love, peace, and clarity, you harmonize with the very laws that shape reality. This is not philosophy. This is the physics of consciousness. Step 2. Lie with intention. The Emerald Tablet teaches that what is within becomes what is without. So ask yourself, what are you cultivating within? What thoughts do you feed? What emotions do you hold? What reality are you creating? Every intention you set is a seed. Every word you speak is a spell. Every action you take shapes the mirror of your world. So live like it matters, because it does. Step 3. Align with universal law. The tablet reveals that there is one thing, the source, the essence, the divine unity from which all things flow. And this one thing moves with law, with rhythm, with harmony. Your task is to align with it. This means living in integrity, following the rhythm of nature, trusting the cycles of your life, listening to your intuition, honoring truth, even when it challenges you. When you align with universal law, your life becomes effortless, not because it is free from pain, but because it is guided. Step 4. Use meditation as a philosopher's stone. In ancient alchemy, the philosopher's stone was said to transform base metals into gold. Spiritually, it is the awakening that transforms the ego into the soul, fear into wisdom, time into eternity. Meditation is your philosopher's stone. In stillness, you dissolve the illusions. You separate the subtle from the dense. You begin to feel the eternal part of you that is always known, not through belief, but through experience. You don't have to escape the world. You just have to go deeper into the now. Step 5. Awaken others by being fully yourself. The greatest transmission is not what you say, it's who you are. When you live the teachings of the tablet, you become a mirror for others. Your presence reminds them of their own divinity. Your choices reflect what is possible. Your light dissolves their fear. This is how real change happens, not through force, but through frequency. The Emerald Tablet says, "Thus was the world created. From this are all things, and by this all things return." You came from the one thing. You are made of the same divine essence that created suns, oceans, and galaxies. And one day, your soul will return, not be erased, but to become whole again, to merge with the source as a conscious, radiant being. But you don't have to wait. You can live that truth now. You can walk this world as a soul in a body, a light in human form, a bridge between the seen and the unseen. You can turn your daily life into alchemy, turning confusion into clarity, pain into power, fear into freedom. And this is why the teachings were hidden, not to deny you, but to protect them, to wait for a time when the world was ready, when hearts had grown strong enough to remember, when the distractions had pushed us far enough from ourselves that we would finally begin to return. That time is now. You are not here by accident. You are not watching this by chance. You have followed the thread across lifetimes, through shadows and silence, to find this flame. And now it is yours. The Emerald Tablet is not just history. It is prophecy. And you, by choosing to awaken, are fulfilling it. This is the real secret. You are divine. You are the alchemist. You are the one thing. Now live like it.